In this video we're going to be taking a look at what to do when you first boot up Pro Tools, or if you've just connected a new audio interface. I'm going to open up Pro Tools from down here in the dock, and the moment the purple window turns up I'm going to press the N key and keep it held. Now instead of taking me to the quick start dialog, it's going to take me straight to the playback engine settings. From here I can choose my audio interface. Now it has a habit of defaulting to built-in microphone. Built-in microphone and built-in input quite frankly aren't much use, as obviously you can't really hear what you're doing. Built-in output is handy if you don't have an interface. I currently have a Editor UA25 connected. And there's another setting here of Pro Tools Aggregate I/O. Now I wouldn't recommend using this. What it does is it takes multiple interfaces and kind of combines them together into one. The only time I might use this is if I didn't have an interface and I needed to combine the built-in input and output of the computer together. For now I'm going to stick to the UA25. We'll be looking at the settings in a later video. Same goes for disk playback. So for now I'll just go straight to the quick start dialog. Now from here I can choose to start a new session from a template. Pro Tools comes with several of these, but you can of course create your own. I can open a recent session. I could even navigate to an older session. Or as what I'm going to do now, we're going to go for create blank session. Let's have a look at these session parameters next. Audio file type. There are only two available as your session parameter, BWF and AIFF. I'd recommend using BWF, which is a variation on WAV, as it'll have the least compatibility issues. Then I can set my bit depth. The bit depth determines the dynamic range of your system. That's the difference between the quietest and the loudest signals you can have. 16-bit gives you 96 dB. 24-bit gives you 144 dB. Some people think of this as the accuracy of your Pro Tools session. I can also set it to 32-bit float. This is new to Pro Tools 10. Floating point processing gives you a lot more dynamic range for your bits. In fact, 32-bit float gives you 16,080 dB, which is more than enough for anyone. I would actually recommend turning this on because it'll avoid issues like clipping signals with Audio Suite plugins. And then we have this tick box here for interleaved. Now if I don't tick this, with stereo tracks, Pro Tools will just create separate files for left and right channels rather than a single stereo file. This is going to be a real pain if you try and take that file from Pro Tools into anything else. So I'm going to click interleaved, which resolves that problem. We'll be looking at I/O settings in the next video. And the sample rate, well, the sample rate determines the frequency range of your system. It's approximately double the highest frequency you can record. Take a little bit off for what are called anti-alias filters. Now depending on your interface, you might be able to take this up as high as 192 kilohertz. As you can see here, this is grayed out. I can only actually have 48 kilohertz with my current interface. I tend to stick to 48 kilohertz anyway, as it's the sample rate used by almost every video system. So transferring files backwards and forwards isn't an issue. So let's press OK. Now I actually get to determine where my session is saved and what it's going to be called. If I scroll down here, you can see I have a dedicated audio drive and Pro Tools sessions in here. I'm going to call this new session. It's better to have a separate drive from your system drive for your audio. You'll just squeeze more performance out of your system. We'll press save, and this now takes us to our new session window. This is a totally empty Pro Tools session. Okay, so in the next video we're going to be taking a look at the I/O setup.